Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is video 3 in the mini series for the step-by-step process of how I make my mini trifold journals. So today I thought I would take you through the first couple of pages that I've embellished in the mini trifold journal. As I mentioned in my last video, I work from the back through to the centre of the journal, and that way I'm able to make sure that it doesn't get too alligator mouthed. And as you can see, since the last video, it is starting to fill out a little bit, because as I go through, I usually make my tags and any other inclusions at the same time so that I have an idea that everything is flowing through nicely. So let me take you through what I've done so far. Please bear with me, I am a very slow crafter because this part of journal making is what I love best. So I tend to just take my time and enjoy it and savour it. And so things don't move very quickly when I'm making my journals. So for the first couple of pages, what I've done is I've stitched on my machine round the outside of my pages, and I prefer to use complementary threads rather than contrasting threads. So I will choose colours that marry in with my page rather than say a black or something that will stand out. That's just the way I like to work. If I was doing a grungy journal, then I would go for the darker threads, but because I like to keep these fairly soft and light and feminine, I tend to stick with very light coloured cream threads or straw coloured threads maybe. I don't tend to use white because not many of the pages are white in the journal. They've got some sort of staining or inking. I've kept this page very plain because I like the image. I may well do something on it at a later stage, but at the moment I'm quite happy with it. I did want to trim the edge with some lace because, as you know, I had a little bit of a waterfall going with my edges. But because this image isn't very big and this lace that I've chosen has a slight edge to it or a selvage, I put the lace on the reverse side of the page. So going over, if I open out my pocket, I think I should be able to show you. I've put the lace in there. It's only got a very tiny selvage to it, but it was going to obscure my image there. If you remember, this side of the page had book text on it or text on it. I decided to cover that up completely with a page from a botanical book that I have. So I've stitched all the way around that, clipped a thumb hole, and I've also made a journaling spot using a library cabinet card. I've stitched and inked this as well, and just put a little bit of straw paper, some washi on it to decorate this side. Because the holes are bigger than the 4mm eyelets that I have, I put a piece of paper on the top, or a circle of brown paper on the top, and punched a smaller hole before I put my eyelet in it, and that way my 4mm eyelets don't just fall all the way through. On the back, I've just done some collaging with vintage papers and a sticker, and that goes in the pocket. Obviously the journal's nowhere near finished yet, so I don't tend to put my lace on at this stage. I tend to put that on at the end. Using the offcut from this page, I've layered up my page next door to it. And every time I play with this paper, I think, why on earth do I set myself a challenge of trying to work with it? It is the carbon sheet from my vintage clog book that I have. I love the thinness of the paper, I love the feel of it, and I love the fact that it has numbers on it, but it is so thin, so I have to really think through what I'm going to do so that what I do on this side doesn't show through on the reverse. Plus also, because it's so thin, it is a challenge to stitch, but I do stitch it. So I've stitched around the edge. The stitching actually acts to reinforce the paper but I just have to be so careful as I'm stitching it. So I've done some messy stitching around it. I've left part of the numbers showing through. The offcut from this page I've layered up with, I've stitched it, I've layered it up with some German book text, and then this is a vintage cigarette card here. And I've stitched that as well, and I'm just rooting around my desk for a piece of paper and I haven't got it, so just bear with me 1 second. This is a pocket at the top here. I may put something in it or I may decide not to. I don't know at this stage. It may get, if it gets too chunky, then I won't, but if it doesn't get chunky by the time I've got to the end, then I will put something in there. It might only be a sheet of paper, which is obviously less bulky than a tag. So things like that, decisions like that, I make towards the end as I'm going along. I've used some of that German book text up the top here with some French handwritten exercise text, a little bit of lace. This is a fussy cut from some lace trim that I have. I love this lace. I'll be mortified when I finally use it all because it makes perfect tabs. Vintage button and some crochet lace tied through it. Over the page, I'm just going to take away this tag for the moment and explain how this came about. That vintage French exercise text I folded round the page and started a collage. The reason I collaged this page was because obviously the images from that were showing through, so that dictated what I needed to do on this page. And because this page here is Chinese book page, I included some of that on the opposite page so that it married it in. This is some gorgeous recycled, if I try and hold it up to the camera, there we go. It's recycled paper, so it has a very, very fine grain to it, but it's lovely paper to work with, and it's really nice to know that paper's been used and then brought back into use again by whatever process they use, so that I can use it again. It's lovely. So bit of collage and additional stitching there. This page, let me explain. If I take that out, I decided to use this lovely lace in the journal. As I mentioned in the previous one, I tend to, before I start decorating, I tend to go through my pages and put in 1,000,001 of these post-it notes, giving me an idea of what I plan to do on those pages. And as I said to you, that is not cast in stone. Things move and change as I go through the journal and see how things are evolving. And I decided, because I wanted to use this lace, I would do a belly band. Now, I'm not a great lover of belly bands, but sometimes you need to push yourself and move out of your comfort zone. So that's what I decided to do here. So I put this lace on here, thought I liked the look of it, stitched it on, and then when I got it on, I decided no, it was way, way, way too busy on top of the Chinese book page. So I thought maybe I would distract from that look a little bit by putting a stamp on here that would pick up the green there. Nope, still didn't like it. So then I decided, right, I'll make a tag and put a tag behind it, which is obviously what the sole purpose of the belly band was, apart from being decorative lace. So I made this journaling card, a little bit of lace at the top. I put an eyelet and trapped some more lace, which I quite like doing. I'm getting a bit hooked on that, I'm afraid. Inked and stitched around the edge, and then on the reverse I collaged it with, this is part of a French land deed. There's some of that German book text, and this is a contemporary stamp, contemporary ticket, and I've trapped a little bit of lace behind underneath that. So I made that specifically to go behind here, and then when you pop it in like so, I decided nope, it was still too fussy. I didn't like it. So that tag is not going to go in there. For the time being, I've just clipped it to this page. It may well, I've lost my paper clip, it may well stay there, I don't know. I quite like the fact that when you turn over the page, you just see the hint of that book page up there, but you've got quite a plain looking page with just a tag embellishment, and when you take that off, you see the collaging underneath. I quite like that. So what I decided, I couldn't leave this as it was, and I decided that the thing that was distracting me was the Chinese book page underneath. It was way too fussy. So obviously the solution to that would be to put something plain behind it. So I made this faux envelope journaling spot to go behind it, using that recycled paper I've just mentioned. So I created a little flap, I stitched across the top, and then I decided I didn't want to have an envelope there. This paper was so lovely, I wanted to share a little bit of it. So I just put 3 pages together, created that flap, as I said, stitched it, and then on the reverse made it look a little bit like an envelope. So vintage stamp, more French handwritten paper from 1895, an address that I ripped out, and I've just stamped over the top. So it's like a faux envelope, but it's a journaling spot. And that, when I can get it in behind the lace, which normally I put vellum. Whenever I work with lace, I like to put vellum behind it because it makes things go in a lot easier. They don't catch on the lace, which this one is doing badly for some reason. It wasn't as bad before. Oh, I see, I've got one of the pages going over to the next page, wrapping around my page. So when I finished doing this, I was a lot happier with how it looked, and once I've done that, I can move on. But you can see how I will fluff and flaff and take my time. I love embellishing journals, but sometimes it just takes me ages until I'm happy with the look or the layout of a page. And this 2-page layout was exactly one of those situations. So going over the page, if I take away that little paper clip, what I've done here is botanical book page. I've created a top pocket, just a very, very simple tag that I've inked and stitched. And normally I do eyelets for my lace, but I've seen 1 or 2 people are stitching their lace on, so I thought I would have a go and do that. And then just botanical book page on the back, and a little bit of there we go, French script on the top there. So that goes in that top loading pocket. This opens out this way, another image with some botanical text there about various, it's a glossary, part of a glossary actually. And then it also opens out this way. And I was going to, again, you've got more book text there. I was going to cover that up, but then when I actually read it, it was really interesting, and it was about the Narcissus, which is what this one is, and it's a Narcissus biflorus, which effectively means twin sisters, or anything that says biflorus apparently means twin flowers or twin-headed. And I decided to leave that because it was really interesting. So, and also it flowed through in terms of the colour. So I love that, and left it as it was. As you can see, this is some of that Chinese book page. I'll probably leave that as a journaling spot, or I might put a sticker on it. I'm not sure. The jury's still out on that bit at the moment. That's why I say, even though I do decorate my journals, I still end up going backwards and forwards in them, because what I'm going to do doesn't always come straight to mind. So the next page was a plain page of tea stain paper. Again, messy stitching on my machine. I've reinforced it because I know that this paper can be a little bit delicate when I come to stitch it. So I've reinforced it with some clear tape down here. And I decided that I would put a glassine envelope on it. Now, I'm not sure whether it will sit on this side or on the reverse side at the moment, but I made my glassine envelope, so that's that. And I did a little bit of layering, collaging on the top. I haven't filled it for the simple reason that I will fill it at the end, because if I've used a lot of flashcards in my journal, then I won't put spare flashcards in here. if I'll put something else in, like stamps or little playing cards or lace snippets. But if I haven't used a lot of flashcards, then I might put a French or an Italian or a Latin one in here as the mood takes me. So that one will still sit on there for the time being, but I still have left my post-it note for the simple reason that when I work through my journals, what I tend to do is, let me show you, I will, see let's find a page where I haven't worked on. Got some bits tucked in here. I haven't worked on these pages. I will take out the centerpiece that I'm not working on. I will then take out the page that I want to work on, and all these I've already done. And I will take this and I will put it sideways like that, and then move this to one side and start working on this double page. And the reason I do that is because I can't tell you how many times I have taken out a page. Say, for example, if it was like that, I've taken out my page, and if I put that back in there, move it to one side, then I might not finish this page, in which case I'll come back to it the next day, or somebody might come to the door, or I might just get carried away embellishing this page. And then I'll come back and I'll think, Lord, whereabouts am I in my journal? Because I'll have invariably have shut this and put it to one side. So my trick now is I put that on top. Then when I'm working on my page and I finish decorating this, when I come to put it back inside the journal, I know exactly where it's been, and I don't have to work out whereabouts it sits inside my journal, because your pages are more or less in order. As I said to you, if you get a whole wad of paper and fold it in half, you will get that waterfall effect at the outside edge, for the simple reason that the fold pushes out the inside pages. So that's just a little tip that I'd like to share with you, or what I do anyway when I'm working through my journals. So I also, where I've got something that will lift out like this, I will leave my post-it note so that I know exactly what is supposed to be on that page, and I don't get carried away and decorating that and think, oh Lord, I should have been leaving that plain for a journaling spot, or as in this case, my glassine envelope. Okay, excuse me. Next page, this is my one of my vintage clog receipts. I've stitched around the edge, left it fairly plain because it's quite a busy page. I've just put on a couple of stamps, and again continuing with the yellow theme, and stitched down the centre. Over the page I've created a tag, again keeping it very, very simple. I've stitched around the edge of this. I haven't done any decoration at the top. I may well do, I don't know, but at this stage I liked how just gentle and soft this tag was looking, so I will probably leave this as it is. I've used half a vintage ticket here. This is a soft green to marry up with that, and a little bit of washi on the side, a computer card on the back, and just some collaging. I've left the stitching from down the centre of these stamps here on this page, just for a bit of interest. Observer book page, I've stitched round the image and done some collaging on this side. More collaging on this side, but because my image on this side was orange, that's why I've put the little glassine envelope on the top with another little tea card inside it. So it's not, I've left the orange there. I could have covered it up completely, but I thought it might give a little bit of interest. So that's that, and that's as far as I've gone. I've done, I think it's 4 pages, 1, 2, 3, 4, ooh, 5, 6. Crikey, that's good for me. I've done 6 pages, and all this part of the journal I still haven't done. This is still to do, but I've done various things, like I've picked out more images that I want to use on my pages. I actually have created some of the glassine pockets to go inside. So I've done a little bit more. There's a flip over there. I've also made another tag here, or a little journaling spot to go in somewhere, again from a cut down library catalogue card. And I've also created a tiny little envelope to go inside, and I've put some vintage papers inside and a little snippet of the computer card inside, just for some interest for Pam. And that will go in the journal. I don't know where yet, but I was in the mood to do that, so that's why those are there. So, as I say, I've taken out my centre portion here, and just to show you that this is the last page that I worked on. So if we go now, we're working through to the back. Again, botanical observer book page, more collaging, and I've stitched around the edge. And because I've done this now in 2 locations in my journal, I did it there. This is different, or I'm classing that as different because it's got a glassine pocket. I did not want to do it again on the reverse side, so I created this little flip out. So what I've done here is I've stitched around an image. I've put a little number tag from that French ledger paper that I have, and collaged inside. Put a little journaling, some tea stain paper inside for a journaling spot, and magnetised it. And this is where I've started to pick up some hints of blue, which is the secondary colour that Pam said she wanted in her journal. So I've done a side tuck here, laid up some tea stain paper, an image out of a book that I got from, just bear with me one second, it's In and Out of the Garden by Sarah Midden. It's yes, it's from the Sarah Midden book. So there's a couple of pieces out of her book which I've laid up and stitched, bit of lace on the bottom, and it just serves as a tuck spot for this tag. And this is a lovely iris with some washi at the bottom, stitched and collaged on the back there, and stamped. Even though Pam wanted predominantly yellow and blue, obviously if you do all those colours all the way through, it's going to be a bit too much. So that's why I've tried to pick out some nice softer tones and images that aren't quite in your face in terms of the yellow. Both this one and this one and this one, they've got lovely soft bluey grey backgrounds to them, so they fit in really well. And this has got a blue edge to it round here, which I thought would pick up that blue on there. So those are kind of what I'm looking for when I'm playing with my journals. This is the back of the vintage receipt, and it came out quite a way. It's double the size of this page. And what I did was I folded it in on itself to create one of these long pockets. This is the tag in the pocket using a computer card and some French vintage script, fussy cut image, more of that lace to create a tab at the top. And obviously the I only really use the mother of pearl buttons. I bought them on the internet through Amazon. They're inexpensive, but I really like using them. They're quite thin as well, and some of them have a nice bluey, greeny tinge to them, which tends to work well with things like the journals, and I'll show you in a minute. Oh, this one here. This one's got a gentle bluey tinge to it. I don't know if you can see that. Which compared to this one, which is a creamy tinge. So the colours seem to work well for the journals that I like to work with. So as I say, I've created a long corner tuck spot. This is a sticker that I've put on. I've stitched the pocket and round the triangle. Some lace here, some vintage French pages. I think there's 3 here. Yeah, there we go, which I thought were lovely. I've created a little sticker, layered sticker pocket there, and there's a tiny little tag in the pocket. There we go, with some miniature ledger paper on the back. So that's just goes in that pocket there. A little bit of interest. This one is an image that I've stitched all the way around. I've put an eyelet in the corner, as you can see. I've done some layering up with some very, very fine double layer of chiffon there. Layered up some tea stain paper with some numbers from the vintage ledger, and then a couple of layers of lace at the bottom with a little lace flower and that button, and then that just flips up. There's a sticker and some more of the ledger paper there. Over the page, I've done an Edith Holden page here. This is a side pocket, as you can see. I've done some more layering up with that chiffon and the word marigold there on a double layer. And here is a corner tuck spot. Again, I've stitched around all the pages. This is an image I will use somewhere in the journal, but it's just my piece of paper at the moment to remind me to use it, and also to remind me that this is a corner tuck spot that I need to do something with. This will not go up in there. It doesn't sit or work for me. Perhaps this one will, I don't know. We'll see. That one I like better, but still maybe a little bit too fussy. I don't know. It depends on what I'm going to put in this pocket as to what I'm going to put in that pocket, because I will want those two to kind of flow together. So I tend to do little fripperies like that just to remind myself that I need to use that image. Okay, over the page, again, I've done the same thing here. I've made this tag. This is from botanical book pages, just a couple stitched round the outside. I've put a glassine pocket on the top, which I've also stitched, vintage stamp there, and then the tea card, little vintage tea card, or cigarette card. Actually they're Will's cigarettes apparently. So I've made that, but I'm not going to use that on this page because that doesn't work for me. I will use something else in that pocket. Here I've just used the fussy cut and laid it onto some vellum, and this image is the bottom half of this image. I've just chopped it off and used it on a pocket so that nothing was wasted. I quite like that it's a soft yellow as well. So as I say, this is just to remind me that I've got a tuck spot there, but this tag will be used elsewhere in the journal. I had this lovely image of an iris which I thought might be quite interesting to use on a page, so all I've done is I fussy cutted it out and glued it onto my page. I've put a little bit of Chinese book text there with some straw paper to marry in, and I probably will not do anything with that page at all, because this is going back to that carbon paper for the vintage receipt, so it's quite delicate. I probably won't do anything with this page. I've reinforced it on the other side by making another top pocket up here. Actually, I might leave that in there, I don't know. I've put some lace down the side, Tracy Fox label at the bottom, and I chose this image because it marries in well with the image of the flowers on the back page. Here I've put lace along the edge of my page and I've mimicked it on that side. I've done one of my little pressed stud flowers up here, Tracy Fox label there. This opens out and I've done another glassine envelope. This is layered up with some lace underneath, offcuts of lace here, a little image of a flower, again, bluey purples to marry in with that and marry in with that, green sari silk to pick up the greens there, some eyelash trim and some more lace there. This is the card that's I've made to go in it. So there we go. Again, picking up the bluey, there's like a bluey tinge to this green. Stitched and ink round the edges and lace just stitched on the back and some collaging. So that's in the front pocket, and in the back pocket, lift that out, I just put into English flashcards. Very, very plain, nothing on those. And I've layered my glassine bag, which I've created 2 pockets as you saw and stitched, and I've just laid it up onto some tea stained paper just for an extra little bit of interest and to pick up, because these were cards that I inked. When I put them against the white, I didn't like the look of it. It didn't work very well, but I still wanted to use them. So that's why I put the tea stained paper behind and inked the edges of that so that it marries in with the cards. So that sits in there, that closes on there, and then that's my back page. And sorry, I've just got a couple little bits on that. And as you know, I've already put that little bit of fussy cutting on there just to give me something yellow on the back page. So that is as far as I've gone. So I will be back and hopefully show you the remaining pages all decorated up and ready to go for me to stitch this all together and finish off the cover. So thank you so much everybody for watching. I hope you found it useful. I know 1 or 2 of you are playing along and working your way through your own mini trifold journals, so I'm delighted you're doing that. I hope you have as much fun as I am doing this. Sorry, get my words out properly. I hope you're having as much fun doing yours as I am with this one. I always have a huge amount of fun doing these. As I say, the last couple of days I've done nothing but decorate these pages and I've been in my element. So the lovely thing is I've got a few more days of pure enjoyment to come decorating my remaining pages. So once again everybody, I'll stop rambling. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care, have a lovely weekend. Bye bye now.